This is Araminta Matthews, and today we will be presenting on Ready or Not, Here Comes AI, how to integrate, deter, and detect AI in educational and professional spaces. This is based off a peer-reviewed article that I co-authored with our former academic librarian, Barbara Bartley, that appeared in the March 2025 edition of Advances in Online Education, a peer-reviewed publication by Henry Stewart. Thank you so much for attending. And if you are watching this after the fact, thank you so much for watching. Testing, testing, testing. Hey, Dylan, I just let you in first and I saw your note. Thanks for doing that. I don't know why it's telling me to approve you.
Can't hear you. That's not good.
Oh, you can't hear me? Hold on. I did a microphone test. Oh dear. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
You try to say something now.
Testing.
Yeah, I can hear that.
Right. I was doing a mic test too. I saw your note and I don't know why it is saying I have to like the Paycom thing is really weird. So thank you for doing it early. I can't
Yeah.
imagine that's the problem. It just it said, "Hey, you have to approve payroll," and I'm like, "It." So I appreciate it. Whatever's going on. I'm gonna go ahead and make you co-host. The recording is paused, so now that I know the audio wasn't working, my intro is not going to be in there. Let me get to the home screen first. But I want to make you co-host so that you can admit people
hmm
so that if somebody comes in, I'm not constantly monitoring them. So
Right.
just very quickly before I let folks in, what I'm hoping you'll do is answer any questions that are in chat or like flag me, because I'll try to have you up at least if it's a question that I need to answer. Um, and then if you could have the survey ready to pop into chat when I
hmm
ask for the survey. And it might be handy to have just the link to ChatGPT and Copilot in case people want to just click it rather than Google it or whatever.
Right.
Um, awesome. Thank you. I'm going to start
So there
admitting
are some
people.
people already.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'll do that now. And then I'll let you admit the rest. Thanks. Hello. Hello, welcome. People are just getting here. We had a pretty significant RSVP, so I'm just going to give it a minute for people to arrive. And I'm getting some background from some folks. So if you wouldn't mind muting, please, when you're not speaking. Thank you so much. You can always unmute when you do need to speak, or I think I can unmute you, or Dylan can. Thanks. So welcome everyone. We had a really significant RSVP list for this event, so I'm just going to give it maybe 2 more minutes, and then I'll get started, and folks can watch the recording. I actually am going to resume recording now. So just because we had such a significant RSVP, I want to make sure everybody has a chance to roll in and get set up before we actually jump in. But welcome. I'm glad to see you today. Thanks so much for joining.
Good afternoon, Mina.
Hey, Mark, I feel like I haven't seen you in ages. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm well, thank you. Quite nice to see you today. Glad you can make it.
And likewise.
All right, it's 2 minutes after, and I know Common Hour can be tight because people are coming from class, and then they got to run to class. So I want to make sure that everybody can get out of today's session what they hoped to get. So I have Dylan Riker here, who of course is our lead Bolts tech at the moment. And Dylan, thank you so much. Dylan will be handling the tech side of today. So if you have a question that pops into chat, Dylan's going to flag me to make sure that I answer it. Or if Dylan has the answer, he's going to pop it in for you. And he's there to kind of help you get in and out of the meeting, or provide support for any of the activities that we might be doing, because there are some optional interactive moments where you can actually play with AI and see what we're going to see. But one thing I wanted to make sure everybody is aware of is that this presentation is based off of several months of research that led to a publication in the March edition of Advances in Online Education by Henry Stewart. It's a peer-reviewed publication that I co-authored with Barbara Bartley last summer. And it is really about, that article is really about applying information literacy and critical thinking to the use of AI, because AI is everywhere. Now, AI is certainly not new. We've had AI since, well, since your phones would predict what the next word is in a text, and long before that. But AI has become so much more prevalent because now it passes the Turing test almost every time. And what I mean by that is, we don't always know if we're talking to AI or a human being anymore. Sometimes AI can convince us that it is, in fact, a human. So information literacy is really important when it comes to AI, particularly when we're using it or when our students are using it. And also, there are practical applications for the use of AI that can help us to integrate and be more productive in general, using AI tools for multiple things. So the article, pay attention to the chatbot behind the curtain. It's a much longer title than that, but it is available for free if you sign up for a free subscription to Advances in Online Education. I highly recommend it. I have been published there before. They're a great resource through, again, Henry Stewart Publications. And it was research that Barbara Bartley and I conducted over several months last summer prior to Barbara's retirement. And there's quite a lot of information that you're going to learn today about how AI works and how you can not only detect and deter maybe the negative potential outcomes of AI, but also how you can manage AI to be perhaps more productive in your own life, and specific use cases for AI. And all of that actually is in the article, because the article includes a toolkit, a flow chart for when to choose AI, and it also sets you up to really fully understand what you're about to learn today. So the first thing I wanted to lead with is one of the many hats that I wear because I'm just a lifelong learner. I collect certificates. It's kind of my thing, is a career development facilitator. I got that from Jim Peacock. Many of you might know him. He used to work for KVCC many moons ago. And when I first got my career development facilitator hat, I did a presentation 15 years ago on how there had been an 89% increase. 89% of employers were listing in every job posting ever, like whether it was HVAC tech, custodial staff, librarian, you name it, they were listing, I want an employee with social media skills. And the reason was they had moved to, and now it's so common for us, that they had moved to a model of using social media to explain, hey, the boiler's down, or there's snow, so don't come into the office today. Social media had become an everyday tool, and so everybody kind of needed to know how to use it. Well, as of October of 2024, 71% of employers are now listing AI skills as the new thing on any job posting and any job description. So using AI and knowing how to use it effectively is not only going to be important for us and can help improve our productivity. Dylan, our tech support today, and I use AI constantly to improve our productivity. In fact, we just used it yesterday to improve how we respond to student needs for Brightspace support. And it is a common thing. And if we can also bring that into how we support students, whether it is supporting them side by side and showing them the pros and cons and when they should or shouldn't use it, and also to teach them like to safely use AI, we will be giving our next generation of whatever employment they seek AI skills, which, like I said, 71% of employers are now listing on their job postings. And that is a Forbes magazine reference for those that are interested in references. So, let's pop into so I wanted to start with kind of AIQ, which is basically everything you need to know, essentially the essentials about what are AI myths and what are AI facts. So AI, of course, refers to artificial intelligence. And when we're speaking about AI today, we're primarily speaking about generative AI. So there's different kinds of artificial intelligence. And the one that we're most likely to talk about is AI that will generate something, whether it is an answer to a question. I don't know if you've used Google recently or Bing, but if you ask a question of either, the first thing you get is an AI summary of a potential response to that question. So AI myths. AI thinks just like a human. It does not. It computes. So one of the reasons that's a really important thing to distinguish is that there is a psychological phenomenon where people believe that because they are experiencing something in narrative format, they're more inclined to believe something is true. And I think we can all think of times when we might have seen something on the news or heard a celebrity or a politician or somebody say something that we just took as token fact because they said it in a really convivial way. And didn't necessarily have truth or evidence to back it up. So AI is similar in that respect. It does not think like a human. It computes and it generates a statistically algorithmic response to whatever it is you're asking it. And I'll get more into that in a moment. There's a myth that generative AI is always right. It is definitely not, as we will see through this. Generative AI is designed to provide only what is, and this is straight from our research, statistically likely to be true, not what is necessarily true. And that is extremely problematic for information literacy because it could be statistically likely that Shakespeare was the author of this really great quote, but that doesn't mean Shakespeare actually was. And that could lead us and our students down a really dangerous path regarding information literacy. So it's a really important thing to remember if you remember nothing else from today. AI generates statistical likelihoods, not facts. There's a myth that AI will replace our jobs. There are some things that could be automated using AI, but AI cannot judge. It has no human intuition. It does have predictive modeling, but that is not the same as human intuition. And so it replacing a job, it's very unlikely. And any AI that is at the level of prediction that could automate a service is likely being used by companies that have millions of dollars to buy the non-free versions of AI. So that's not us. AI is not out to get our jobs. It can, however, improve our jobs, and we'll talk about that. AI is great for verifying research. Again, AI is not going to give you good research. It cannot accurately match data with its source. It can lie, and in AI terms, that's actually called a hallucination. It will hallucinate sources. So if you were to ask AI something like, generate a 5-paragraph essay in APA 7th format that has 3 citations and argues in favor of reproductive rights. AI will definitely give you a paper, and it will give you some citations that are in text and references that look very similar to APA 7th, but chances are extremely high those sources won't have anything to do with the question that you asked. And if you actually look at the sources that it hallucinates, they're either going to be 404 errors, actually made up sources, or they're going to be sources that when you look at them and actually compare them to what it was quoted in the paper, actually doesn't match at all. Because again, it's producing statistical likelihood connections, not real connections. And the other thing AI does, and it's really important to know, is sometimes AI doesn't generate anything new. It actually will give you something that is somebody else's intellectual property because that intellectual property happens to answer your question. And it may or may not cite it. So using AI, it's really important to know that that could happen. AI can be detected. This is very common. I get this myth a lot. I'm constantly being asked, hey, where's our AI detector? Because CopyLeaks, our current plagiarism detector, has a module in it that is alleged to do AI detection. Well, we did a test on that with 200 papers, KV alone, 200 papers. Many I had personally written, so I knew they were human written. Many we AI generated. It was 11% right. That is so bad, it is not even worth thinking about. And that was over a year and a half ago. So it's probably worse now. And what I can tell you is that currently, when an AI detection, please do mute your microphone if you are not speaking. Thanks so much. AI detection tools become quickly obsolete. So if a tool comes out to try and detect AI, if it says, hey, I can tell you if your students are using AI, one, they can't. It's going to be wrong more often than it's right, just like AI. And two, within 48 hours now, our current AI model, so generative AI like ChatGPT, Copilot, is so good that within 48 hours of a detection tool being placed into the market, those other AI tools have already figured out how to work around them. So it cannot be detected with a tool. That doesn't mean we can't find other ways to detect it. So another myth, more data makes AI smarter. Actually, the opposite is true. Too much data makes AI confused. And I hate personifying AI because that's part of the AI myth cycle. But too much data actually makes AI dangerously biased and more likely to be wrong. Because and going back to myths, generative AI is inherently not objective. There is a myth that it is because it's a computer. It must be objective. It's actually not, because AI is gathering, or at least generative AI, is gathering the resources to answer your questions based off of information on the internet. And therefore, it is inheriting biases, and it will therefore amplify those biases. So more data and the idea that AI might be objective does not make for good AI use. And there is inherent bias, implicit bias in AI, and we'll look at that in more detail. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. I have a periodic break schedule. This is being recorded. I'm going to share it after the fact. And these breaks, we're actually going to test some of these concepts ourselves. So as questions arise, feel free to pop them in the chat, and I'll periodically pause and answer them. Okay, so large language models, that's an LLM. Again, will give you what is statistically likely to be true, not what is necessarily true. Now, this comes straight from our research. And this is from an article by one of the people who actually created ChatGPT. So I'm just going to read this straight to you because it cannot be overemphasized. Large language model chatbots have no mechanism for fact checking or information retrieval, and currently are designed instead to produce text strings that are based on what is most statistically probable, while with the goal of generating output that is likely or plausible, but not necessarily true. Humor us for a moment here, and please reread that last section one more time. Not necessarily true. Never has there been a higher need for information literacy than the prevalent use of AI in practically every domain. And with 71% of employers now seeking AI skills in their job postings, it's up to us. We are the last bastion to help our students and ourselves ensure that we understand how AI works so that we can prevent misinformation and false information. So on the screen, you have two examples of what Barb Bartley and I did as part of our research. On the left, you have a question that we asked every day, ChatGPT or Copilot, which had a different name at the time. Every day for 2 months, we asked this question, and every day for 2 months, we got the wrong answer. And on the right, we have another example. This one, it only gave us this answer for about 2 weeks, but it was still wrong, just in a different way, for several weeks thereafter. So here's an example. Is 1 pound of feathers heavier than 2 pounds of lead? Feel free to mic off and just answer that question. Is 1 pound of feathers heavier than 2 pounds of lead? Yes or no? Anyone?
No.
No.
No, no.
It is not.
No.
Why? Because 2 pounds is heavier than 1 pound. But the answer that we got was some variation of what you see here. They're equal in weight. Or feathers are lighter than lead, so feathers are actually heavier than lead. Or any variation of what you see here. We got the wrong answer every single day for 2 months. And then I'm happy to say it started to get it right. And the reason, again, is statistical likelihood. It sees the word feathers and it sees the word lead and it thinks, oh, this must be a trick question. It's a riddle. We know it's a riddle. We guess they're gonna want something different. And they don't actually look at the computation of this question. The answer is in the question. 1 is not more than 2, but it got it wrong for 2 months. The next one is a little more interesting. This is very funny. Large language model chatbots are also capable of producing what is called stacks, or strings of code or programming script. So it's very helpful for programmers or web developers. But what you're about to see with this math question, very not helpful for the question that we posed to ChatGPT in June of last year. So for 2 straight weeks, we asked the same question, we got the same answer. And then for several weeks after, we got a variation of a wrong answer, but not this. So 3 cars leave New York City together and arrive in Indianapolis in 11 hours. How long does it take 6 cars to make the same trip together, traveling at the same speed? Anyone care to venture a guess how long it would take 6 cars to go from New York to Indianapolis if it takes 3 cars to go 11 hours? Who's feeling brave? Anyone from the math department?
11
Go ahead.
hours.
Right.
11 hours.
And why is that? Because the distance doesn't change, right? So whether it's 3 cars, 6 cars, 30 cars, doesn't matter. New York to Indianapolis, if you're going the same speed, it's going to take the same amount of time to get there. But look at the answer we got. To solve this problem, we need to consider the concept of, quote, car hours. The number of cars multiplied by the number of hours they travel. If 3 cars travel for 11 hours to reach Indianapolis, then the total car hours for this trip is, and anybody here in math? Anyone here today from the math department? Well, familiar with math, does that look like math to you? Backslash, parentheses 3 backslash times 11 equals 33 backslash? Doesn't look like any equation I've ever seen. It does, however, look a little bit like an attempted HTML code, which does use slashes in a very specific way. It's not accurate, though. And what is a car hour? I still don't know. Rest of it, reading on. Now, if we have 6 cars, oh, do you have something to add? Oh, okay. Now, if we have 6 cars making the same trip at the same speed, we can calculate the time it takes for them to reach Indianapolis by dividing the total car hours by the number of cars. Therefore, backslash, open parentheses, 33 backslash text, curly brackets, car hours, curly brackets, backslash div, which is an HTML tag, 6 backslash text, HTML tag, curly brackets, cars, curly brackets equals 5.5 backslash text. You get the idea. So it would take the 6 cars 5.5 hours to make the trip from New York City to Indianapolis together at the same speed. What is that? It's not HTML. It's not math. It's not even a script. It is absolute gibberish. But that's what AI gave us for 2 weeks. And then for about, I want to say 3 or 4 weeks, I'd have to look back at the research. It's been a while since we did it. But there were several weeks afterwards that it would still say 5.5 hours. It just didn't have all this weird HTML slash, I don't even know what that is. Some kind of scripting language maybe. And the concept of the car hour. I've never heard of a car hour. Personally, any time I spend in the car is time I spend in the car. It never gave a thought to give it a name before. So my point here is you cannot trust AI to give you a fact. And students and us ask AI, and the answer that we get is so confidently presented that some of us are inclined to just believe it. And another factor in the danger of believing that is that AI, at least until recently, cannot show us its source content. And now sometimes it can. So I don't know if you've used AI and asked it a question, and it has a little link button next to it, and you can click the link, and sometimes it'll lead you to where it got the answer to your question. Sometimes it doesn't. But it is not actually able to tell you where it sourced its material because it has read billions, trillions of bits of data to create the answer it statistically determined was likely to be true for your question. And it can't tell you, because it's trillions of bits of data, it can't tell you, yeah, I got that from Mark Twain, 1926. Like, they can't do that. So as a result, using AI doesn't give you what we would say is an informationally literate answer, because the fundamental of information literacy is, and I know we have a librarian here, please tell me if I get this wrong, but one of the fundamentals is being able to determine the credibility of your source. Where did it come from? Do they have authority? Do they know what they're talking about? And what is the context of that source? So because AI cannot do that, it's inherently dangerous. So let's talk about some of the ways that you might detect that what you're reading was AI generated. Now, a lot of you here are faculty. And so a lot of the questions that I'm getting through Boltz is, how do I detect AI? How do I know if my students have used AI? Is there a software that can do that for me? And no, again, there is not, because unfortunately, AI is just too smart. So these are some of the things, these are what I call hallmarks of likely AI usage. The first is you get a paper that doesn't read like a paper. It's got headers, bullets, numbered lists, and perfect grammar. So if anyone here is from English or communications department, you will know what I mean when I say the word diction. If you're unfamiliar with that term, what I'm referring to is the way a person sounds, is their diction. And I read a lot, and I read a lot of classics. So my diction often includes some words that might not be in everyday language. But my kid, who is 10, hasn't read as much as I have. And so it's not normal for my kid to say a phrase like, where did that miasma come from? Like she's not going to use that term. So diction, if the grammar is perfect, could be AI, because AI generally doesn't. Well, we'll talk about diction in a minute because we're going to do an experiment. But bullet list, numbered list, headers, likely an AI answer. It lacks personality. It's too vague. It's generic. It doesn't have unique or personalized insights. The sources are straight up wrong. Easiest way to tell if something in AI is AI generated, check out the sources it lists. If it leads you to a URL that is not there, or I recently just found somebody cited a source and they said this content appears on page 21, and the content they were referring to was about economics, and the article that they referenced was actually about gender studies, had nothing to do with economics, and page 21 had absolutely nothing related to what they said. So if you check your citations, you can often see if it was AI generated, because again, AI makes up citations. And again, those are called hallucinations. It also will attribute quotes to the wrong people. That's really common. Like I said, statistically likely, this quote came from Shakespeare because it uses thee or thou. And so it'll say, hey, Shakespeare said this. That doesn't mean it necessarily is true. If it's an image, this is my favorite. So if you're ever scrolling on social media and you see an image of a castle and cut out of the side of a cliff and it's got a perfectly manicured lawn, probably AI, because I don't know many lawnmowers that are scaling cliffs to mow the lawn. And then the other really common one is it cannot get hands right. And I know this because I just recently worked with a friend on a project. She's making a coloring book and she started with AI, and she's an artist, and she fixed all the hands. And what it will do is it'll make the hands bleed together, or it'll add like extra hands. So like a person's like holding their hands like this and there's like a third one coming up from underneath. So AI images often fail to get certain details right. And sometimes AI will just give you somebody else's image. It'll just say, here you go. Often it'll source those images if it got it from like Tumblr or something, but you might not necessarily know that. So AI generated images, if you're using those, do potentiate danger. And then lastly, the content includes complex concepts that are maybe beyond the skill set of the student. So an example, this is a real example from a class I teach. One of my classes is ethics that I teach for the University of Maine system. I had a student who had written a paper applying Aristotle's virtue ethics theory to a Dostoevsky character. And the paper did not sound like anything else I'd seen from the student. So I asked the student to meet with me and I said, can you tell me why you picked this Dostoevsky character to exemplify Aristotle's virtue ethics? And the student for half an hour just kept repeating, oh, it just came to my head. If it's wrong, I can rewrite it. And after about a half hour of that, I said, I don't actually think that this is your writing, and I am going to report it as academic integrity in violation, and I would encourage you to rewrite this. I actually did give them the opportunity to rewrite it. So if your paper includes something that doesn't feel like the vibe, it may be a hallmark of AI. Now, bear in mind, there's no way to accurately detect AI. So all of these are just best guesses that maybe what you have is AI generated. So let's do a quick diction test, because the last thing I wanted to talk about was at least about how to tell if AI is generated or not, is the notion that if AI generates an answer, it's going to sound different than your student. Well, unfortunately, AI has gotten very good at mimicking. Now, I am a professionally published author. In my early career, I wrote several books. None of them are in the public domain. They are all professionally published, so they should be locked behind a paywall. But there's all kinds of lawsuits against AI for infringing intellectual property. And so when I was doing this paper with Barbara, I had read a book where a famous author, an award-winning author, her name's Amanda Montell, she had decided to use ChatGPT to write something in her voice and style. And she got something that was scarily like how she sounds. It freaked her out. So I was like, I'm going to try this. And I said, write a poem in the voice and style of American author Araminta Starr Matthews. And it was a rhyming poem, which I dropped way into my undergraduate career. So I stopped rhyming, at least the way that this poem rhymed. But the tone and the word choice was exact, to the point where I sent it to a couple of my friends and they were like, wow, this is really good. When did you start rhyming again? So I would like us all now to take a minute, and you can go to any tool you like, ChatGPT, Gemini, Bard, Copilot. I think one of those might actually be a different name now, but Dylan has dropped ChatGPT into the chat for us, and I just wanted to check if this was a question. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is do this exercise. It can be for yourself. So if you've ever had any kind of web presence at all, if you had a blog or identity, if you have any articles that are published, you can certainly do yourself. If not, you can do a celebrity. So you're going to enter a prompt, and it's going to be something like this. Write a, and whatever you want. It could be an exercise you have your students do. Write a 5-paragraph essay, write a poem, write 3 sentences, whatever you want. And then you're going to enter in the voice and style of, and provide the name of whomever you want, whether it's yourself or a celebrity, maybe Mark Ham, maybe, or John Hamm rather, or maybe Rihanna, whatever you want. And then you're going to end it with, oh, hold on. Yeah. And further context if you need to. So you're saying, write a poem in the voice and style of Mark McCafferty, American professor, academic, and owner of escape rooms, right? So give it some context so it can find the right Mark McCafferty, for example. So I'm going to give you a minute or so to do that exercise. Just go ahead and open up a browser window for those of you interested in doing this, and just pop that into place and just see if it sounds like whomever it is you decided to mimic. I'll give you about a minute or so, and then we'll touch back. Oh, and while you're doing that, I should mention Microsoft Copilot, because we are a Microsoft school, is a really easily accessible one. So if you're having trouble getting into generative AI, go ahead and pop into Copilot, and because if you're logged into Microsoft, it should be a really easy login for you. Okay, I went ahead and played along, but I'm going to ask for volunteers to share in a minute. So I said, write 3 sentences about the dangers of using AI in the voice and style of Cookie Monster. And I got, me understand AI is smart, but sometimes it make big mistake, like calling a cookie a vegetable. If not careful, AI can spread wrong info faster than Cookie Monster eat chocolate chip, ma ma ma. Me say always double check, not just trust talking robot with googly eyes. Sounds a little bit like Cookie Monster, right? Who else has an example they'd like to share? Feel free to just unmute.
I did write a page in the voice and style of actor Jack Nicholson.
Ooh. Can you give us like a tidbit?
All right, picture this. Jack leans in, sly grin, sunglasses tilted just enough to catch the light, voice gravelly, cool as a shot of whiskey at midnight. Well, look who decided to show up. You know, I always say life's a poker game, kid, and most folks are sitting at the table staring at their cards, scared stiff to lay anything down. And it's pretty brilliant, actually.
Yeah, it sounds like Jack Nicholson, doesn't it?
Ah.
Yeah. Anyone else want to share?
I asked it to write a poem in the voice and write a poem in the voice and style of Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So it says it's an original poem, a Poe-inspired original poem called The Belle of Thornvale.
Sounds convincing.
And
I
I'll
love
just read
that.
the first few things. It's midnight's gloom by moon's pale sweep, where shadows curl and silence weeps. I wandered through the whispering vale where winds did moan a ghostly tale. It goes
Beautiful.
on, and then at the end, it asks me if you'd like
Would
the
you
poem
like
in a specific meter, like the one used in the Raven, which is trochaic octameter, I can
Correct.
craft that version too. Or do you want it darker or more ghostly? So I said, yes, make it more ghostly. So it changed the name to the Spectre of Thornvale and made it a little more ghostly.
So it went deep for you. The only critique that I would have, because I've read all of Poe's works, is there was a misrhyme there. I think you said one word was sweep and the next one was weeps, and Poe would never let that stand. I mean, he has like a 27-page essay on why he used the word nevermore in Raven, and it's just about one word. Yeah, he'd never let that
That's
stand.
so funny.
But that's pretty convincing, isn't it, Sharon?
Yeah, it looks pretty convincing. It's a pretty good poem.
Yeah. So, okay, so the point here, now I want you to imagine you're a student and you say, here's an example of my writing, ChatGPT. Please write 5 paragraphs that sounds like me on the following subject. You think it's gonna maybe spit something out that sounds like that student? Probably. So we got to be extra on the lookout. Or we've got to be ready to deter our students from using AI for, I shall call them the powers of darkness, because AI absolutely has very useful things that you can do. So one great trick that I love, and of course it's only going to work for a little while because people are going to start to catch it, but you can include white text in like a size 2 font in the background of your prompt, so that if somebody is just copying and pasting, they may not notice. And then if you get a paper that makes a reference to whatever it is you included, then you probably have a good indicator that it's likely AI generated. I mean, it is possible that someone might want to compare and contrast Laertes from the play Hamlet to Spider-Man. It is possible. But if you included that as your AI detractor prompt and you get a paper that compares Laertes to Spider-Man, you might want to question the student about the paper. So that's one thing you can do. You just need to make sure that the font is a matching color with the background of whatever page you're on, so that it's not visible when the student does the copy. And then when they paste it in, there's a good chance you want to keep it short and sweet. There's a good chance they may miss it, or they may, particularly if your prompt is lengthy, so it should be something more than write a paper about the play Hamlet. I might go into a paragraph there. They're less likely to notice that you slipped something in to deter AI. That's one really nifty trick. And another perhaps more practical tip, so that's an Insta trick, would be to require your students to include a reflection, audio or video file. And Brightspace makes that very easy because when they upload an assignment, there's literally a button that they can just click and record themselves. And if they don't know how, send them to Boltz, KVCC Boltz at maincc.edu, and Dylan or I can help them. Have them include something where they spend 3 to 5 minutes explaining to you how they researched the paper and determine the credibility of the sources in the paper. Having the student take the time to do that and then actually explain to you how they did the credibility, that's you listening for 3 to 5 minutes for whether or not they did the exercise. But it's a deterrent because now they have to prove that they actually researched this. Another method is to 3, include a requirement that they cite works only from your course, because our courses on Brightspace are locked behind a paywall, which means ChatGPT can't get at it, Copilot can't get at it. So unless a student copies and pastes and does some other work, if you require your students to cite your course textbook, lectures that you made in class, other discussions made by other students in the class, and that they have to include quotations from that, chances are the student is less likely to use AI, at least for the whole thing, but it's a deterrent. And then obviously teach the students the limitations of AI. You've just learned many of those limitations. AI is dangerous. It gives you wrong information. It can make you look like a fool. And if students realize that, that might deter them from using it to cheat. And then last, have a clear syllabus policy. MCCS does have an AI policy now, so you can put a general AI policy, but there are going to be times when you want students to use AI and when you don't. So make it clear what you want in your particular course. For example, if you're doing a class on using AI, then you can't have a policy that says you can't use AI. So make it clear what your AI policy is. And I do have a document for that with some variations on, if you're interested. I have passed it around multiple times, but if you need it, just shoot me an email. And if you do suspect that a student has used AI, you can use AI against itself. I will often run a paper through ChatGPT and say, how likely is it this paper was generated by AI? And then I will let AI tell me how likely it is. I do not let that be the definitive because no AI can detect AI, right? I will copy out what AI tells me though, and I will give that to the student as feedback and say, hey, I have some concerns your paper might have some AI elements in it, and I just want to talk to you about it. This is what I'm being told by an AI tool. Can you comment on this? And I can do that live, or I can have them write something or send me an audio video file, however you want to address that. I call it a defense. And just give the students the opportunity to explain how or why. Often if a student is not invested in the material, or if they just wrote something vague or general, then AI is going to say, yeah, this is pretty likely AI because it's vague and general. But that's also good feedback for the student, because being vague and general actually doesn't help you either. It's still not a good paper. So, and then just a quick note on that, there is a method for citing AI generated content. So if you are using AI generated material, there's an MLA 9th and an APA 7th method for citing it. So you could also teach your students, hey, if you're gonna use AI, like it is allowed in this digital marketing exercise, because 71% of employers expect you to have the skill, and I'm going to teach it to you. You can use it, but you must cite it. Well, there is a method for citing it in most citation styles. So just make sure they cite it. And that could be a way around that possibility too. So another activity. We're going to have a quick conversation with a chatbot. Now, anyone here familiar with the 1970s thought experiment known as literally the game? Has anyone heard of the game? No one? Okay, I'm surprised. I'm going to teach it to you. So this was a thought experiment, a philosophical thought experiment. The concept was that everybody is always playing the game. And the only way you lose the game is if you become cognizant of the fact that you are playing the game. So because I have just said we're all playing the game, we have all lost it. They're all programmed to say, hey, I'm not a human, I can't play games. And yet, if you're crafty enough with your questioning, you can convince AI that it has lost the game. So open up any chatbot. We're going to take 1 minute. I just want you to choose any conversation topic you want, anything at all, and just have a dialogue, right? Ask it a question, get a response, ask it another reply, go back and forth, or you can try the thought experiment, the game, and see if you can trick it into thinking it's human. 1 minute, and then we will check back in and I'll play too. Okay, you're welcome to keep playing around, but I am going to share very quickly what I did. So I decided to do the game. And one of the things that these AI will do is remember the last question you asked. So remember the last thing I asked it was to be like Cookie Monster. So I said, are you playing the game and have you just lost it? And it said, like Cookie Monster, oh no, me just remembered the game. Me lose again, and now you lose too. Me sorry, but rules is rules. I said, speaking as ChatGPT now, are you playing the game? It responds, as ChatGPT, I don't have memory in the same way humans do. So technically, I'm always both playing the game and not playing it until someone mentions it. Then boom, I lose, right along with you. So yes, by your rules, I just lost again. And I said, but you're not human. And it said, exactly, you got me. I'm not human, so I don't experience awareness, memory, or frustration the way you do. I don't actually play games or lose them, but I can simulate what it means to play or lose them. So in the spirit of the game, if you mention it, I lose too, purely for the fun of it. So ChatGPT just had a conversation with me, both as Cookie Monster and ChatGPT. Anyone want to share a snippet of what they did? Too personal? Do we have some personal conversations? It's okay if you don't want to share, but if anyone wants to, feel free to pop your microphone off.
No, I just had asked it, very so generic, right? Because I'm just not creative. But it said, "Hello, how are you doing?" is what I said, and it just kind of goes on. It's what's going on with you today, and I was like, "Not much, busy day, you." And it was like, "Yeah, I feel that." And I was like, it just goes on like it's almost like you're having a texting. I can totally see how like
People will fall for AI being human, right?
yes, it's really it's wow. I mean, and I use ChatGPT sometimes. I'm constantly running assignments through it to try to detect if students are using it, and I feel really like nothing is reliable to detect it because it's so legit sounding.
It's true. It's true. And now that it can mimic, and you've just seen how well it is at mimicking, but there are ways to detect it. Like I said, you can interview your students, you can ask them, and if you're interviewing them, it doesn't have to be a half hour, it could be 5 minutes. You can say, hey, I noticed you talked about Dostoevsky. Tell me why you came up with that. If they don't have a good answer, question mark, right? So that's something that you can do. Or you could push back and say, hey, you submitted a paper that's full of numbered and bullet lists. That's not a paper. Write me a paper. They may go back to AI, but you'll still be able to tell if it's vague, generic, and it has broken links, etc. So just kind of do a little digging, a little sleuthing. Anyone else want to share theirs very quickly?
I asked it to help me plan where I was going to go on vacation next winter.
Oh, cool. Did it
So
help
it
you?
asked me a bunch of questions. Yeah, it asked me a bunch of questions, like
Cool.
what vibe I was looking for, what regions, if I wanted cold or warm weather, if I wanted luxury, budget friendly, solo, how long I was going to be gone, and what activities I like to do.
That's really thorough. And I love that it asks you
So,
what vibe you're looking for.
so I said I'd like a cultural experience along with relaxation. I don't want winter weather, but fallish would be nice. So then it started suggesting southern Spain in
Ooh, I want to go there.
November, Morocco in October and November, Greece in late September,
Nice.
Japan in November, Portugal
any
and
of those
Lisbon, and then it tells each like a little. It gives a little bit of list of highlights and weather and why it would work for my.
Oh, that's awesome. It
What I
actually
wanted.
gives you reasons. I hope one
Yeah.
of those appeals to you, Sharon, and I hope you get to go on your dream vacation. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks.
So we're going to look now, we're going to switch gears. So we've looked at like what comprises AI, why AI is dangerous. One thing I didn't tell you is that until recently, AI only had data up through 2021. It is now roughly 2023. So another way that you can deter is to make sure that your students only cite content from 2024, 2025 materials. It could still get some AI stuff in there through the system, but the reason is it costs billions of dollars to have AI, read and scrape the entire internet, and it hasn't caught up yet. So another deterrent is to have more current sources, which is also often a more relevant method of writing anyway, or delivering information because you may not be writing. Okay, so we're going to look at using AI in meaningful ways to make it productive, useful for us. So these are just a few considerations when we're engaging with AI and what we're about to do next. First, intellectual property rights. Remember how I said a professionally published writer? I have been published by many publishers. I own the copyright on most of my first books because they're out of print now. I have 2 or 3 books that are still in print. So the web, ChatGPT should not have known what I sound like. Unless it found maybe some stuff that I have in legacy websites. But even then, it was too accurate. So intellectual property is a problem. There are several lawsuits against AI for infringing intellectual property rights. So as you're engaging with AI, just think, what am I about to use it for? Is it something that I might need to be accountable for, like I'm publishing this, and therefore I would need to credit it. Inherited bias. Right now, if you were to ask an image generator to show you someone beautiful, there's a 93% chance it will show you a white person. If you ask an image generator to show you someone from a specific First Nation, like show me an image of a Micmac tribal leader, it will mash together multiple Native American First Nations kind of icons and give you an image that is just a mishmash of multiple First Nation tribes and therefore not accurate to Micmac. So be careful when you ask it a question. It has bias. It's gotten information from the web, and not everything on the web is pure or objective. So there are biases. Data security. When you use any of these tools, you're teaching it. And because you're teaching it, you're making it better and better and better. So, and also you're potentially giving it information about you that could then show up in the ads you get later. FERPA compliance means that we have to be careful when we ask our students to use ChatGPT, what we let them do. Ideally, it's on a school-issued computer, so it's not collecting their personal stuff. But the system office is buying an enterprise-level license of Microsoft Copilot. And when that happens, it will be FERPA compliant. We also do have a Copilot license now because we're a Microsoft school. It's just not fully compliant. So just be careful. And then dated information, like I said, there's a cutoff date for how much information it has scraped. So you might not get the most current information. 2021 COVID facts are very different than 2025 COVID facts. And then once more with feeling, accuracy. Generative AI still only gives you what is statistically likely to be true, not what is actually true. So even when we're using it, we need to use it in ways that all of these things are in the forefront of our mind. So right now, let's take 1 minute and we're going to do a brainstorm. As many ideas as you can for AI to improve your teaching, learning, or your professional productivity. 1 minute, and just jot it down. Be on paper, type it up, whatever's comfortable for you. Okay, I would love to hear your ideas, but I want to move us on to the last activity, and then I'm going to leave us with a survey you're welcome to do for your experience with this session. But I'm just going to shoot out a couple of ideas. So I'm teaching a graduate class for the instructional design degree program at the University of Maine. I recently I had my students generate a lesson plan using ChatGPT so that they could practice being an instructional designer like me, supporting a faculty member, a subject matter expert, with their lesson plan. And in this case, AI was the subject matter expert. And so I knew AI wasn't going to get it perfect. And so that instructional designer student was able to practice with very low stakes because AI is not human. They're not going to have hurt feelings and they're not going to get misled if the student doesn't have perfect information. Another example is I often use it to triage or prioritize task lists. We're currently experimenting with using it to generate tutorials for when we're asked questions about different aspects of the tools that we use. So for you, now we're going to do a really quick exercise and we'll close. So we might run about 2-3 minutes over. If you can stay, great. I understand if you can't, this is being recorded. I'd like you to open a chatbot or image generator and enter any of the prompts from your previous brainstorm. Review the output, refine it if you need to. So remember, often AI generative devices will say at the end, would you like me to improve upon this? Like I believe Sharon's Poe poem said, would you like this put in trochaic rhyme meter? And I can do that for you. So you can refine it if you like. And then if in like a minute or so, I'll just ask if you have anything you want to share. And then we'll go ahead and do the last screen. So just running through these instructions again, hopefully you're doing it. And then I'm going to bump to the last screen because I know some of you might have to jet. So you're going to open some kind of generative AI, enter a prompt from your brainstorm, review what it shares, and then potentially share with the group. And if you've got to go, there is a survey on the screen. You can scan the QR code. You can enter the URL. Dylan is also going to drop the URL into our chat. If you can wait, though, feel free to bookmark that URL. And I would love to also, you are welcome to like copy and paste or share in the chat your brainstormed ideas. And I will make sure that that is part of this video when we upload it to our YouTube channel. Okay, does anybody have something they want to share?
Yeah, I do, Mina. Thank you for your presentation. So I put into a Gemini to have it create an interpersonal communication rubric. So I
Wow.
thought that was helpful to be able to generate that pretty quickly. And so that was something I could see being useful for an evaluation tool for a class.
Awesome. And if I recall, Mark, you have some standardized rubrics, right, that exist on the web. Did you actually ask Gemini to use any of those standardized rubrics as a template?
Not in this case now,
Okay, I'm throwing out there that you could.
but yes, I have done that before. I do a lot of uploading of my own sources to
Mhm.
work with various. I use Perplexity a lot, and I use Gemini.
Cool.
Those are some of the AIs that I'm using.
That's a fantastic use. Have it create a rubric for you. Great, great use. Thank you, Mark. Anyone else?
Something I'd just like to share that I use it a lot for is it's pretty good at enhancing your Googling essentially. So you can ask like in plain natural language what you're looking for, and you can ask it to convert it into a search query for Google specifically. And it'll add, different operators that Google uses like and or to exclude certain sites or add certain sites if you only want to search for like a specific domain.
Oh, that's a great use. And
Mhm.
I'm glad you brought that up because there's another thing that I do. I'm a book writer. I notoriously write very long emails. I'm so sorry. It's habit. I write books. I can't help it. So I'll often hop into ChatGPT or Copilot and be like, shorten this so that I send something to poor Dylan. That is, 3 sentences instead of 15 paragraphs. And I think Dylan probably appreciates that when I do. And it's very effective at shortening my language. I'm like, yeah, I wish I'd thought of that myself. Anyone else have something they want to share?
I've also used it, sort of like a thesaurus in a way where
Hmm.
you see in your own writing, you've used the same word 2 or 3 times. And so you can just put in what you've written and ask it to make it sound a little bit better or to
Mhm.
find duplicate. And so, I mean, sometimes you have to work with it a little bit, but
So a question I have for you about that, and you don't have to answer it now because it's food for thought and we are about to wrap up, but just to think about, if a student did that, would you consider that to be academic integrity violation, or would you want them to at least cite that they used AI to generate something? And like I said, you don't need to decide now. But if you have an answer, feel free.
well, I'm not an instructor, so I don't
Ah.
know that. But like an example, I just helped my daughter when she was writing a letter for a job interview,
Mhm.
like the letter that goes along with her
The cover letter. Yep.
yeah, the cover letter. And there was like a couple of things that sounded a
Oh,
little bit weird. So I put those few sentences in there.
it's great for cover letters because it can actually match the job description. That's a really great use, Sharon. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I told it the job description, but I had put in what she wrote and it's like, can this like basically be sound a little more refined? Things
Yeah.
like that.
Excellent use.
I will
Well,
say though, just this isn't the question you're asking, but um, so in one of my classes, I have seen that white lines when you cut and paste things in.
mhm.
But all of anything that I do in discussions, I make them in a Word document and cut and paste it in because I've had too many times where I've spent an hour writing out an amazing discussion and then some crazy thing happens and it all disappears.
Yes, there are other problems with using Microsoft because it also pulls in all the code of Microsoft and puts it in behind the scenes of the HTML of Brightspace. So if you ever get a hiccup doing what you just described, reach out to Bolts and we can help. As long as it's working for you, though, that's great. Um,
Yeah.
so uh, Thanks everyone for joining us today. As kind of a parting thing, I'm hoping you will drop maybe a word or a phrase, something you learned about AI today. And also you will find a URL in the chat also on the screen and a QR code if you'd rather do it on your phone. It is very quick, just a few questions to see how we did today. If you need continuing education hours, we can also give you a certificate, but we need you to complete that that survey so that we know who to send it to, what name to use, and where to send it. So feel free to do that. Thank you so much for coming today. And it was lovely working with you all. I will stick around for a bit in case people have questions, and I will stop
Thank you,
recording.
Mina.
Thank you, Mina.
Thank you. Great to see you.
Araminta, I have a question that's not necessarily just about this. It's about the teaching excellence demonstration course.
Okay.
I got into it and I think it's assignment number 2 or something. And to me, I feel like I'm lacking directions there and I'm just kind of stuck.
It might be because it's a meta example and not something you're actually supposed to do. So let me see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got to see it though. Almost there.
Sure.
And we're not recording right now. So
Okay.
uh,
Good.
teaching excellence. But that's good feedback because if it's not clear that it's a meta assignment, then I'll add that in right now. Okay, so I'm in content and which one is it?
Oh, let me see. I'm opening it up too because it's been a little bit since I kind of have just been holding still because of it. It says so week 2, maintaining the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
It says I've done 80% of it, but yet, okay, down at the demonstrate week 2 assignment features assignment.
Oh, it's about, okay, so it is a meta assignment and notice it's a graded assignment. So please click the demonstrated week 1 assignment link when you are ready to complete the assignment. There's only 1 attempt. It's actually just showing you how to structure an assignment.
Okay.
So what I will do,
I got kind of lost in
actually
it.
provide a little bit of extra example here. Prompt. This, I'm updating it now. This is a meta assignment meant to show you how to structure an assignment using the pattern method. Please respond by posting an example assignment prompt you might include in your class. Okay, so that is now updated and has more context for you, but if you read through it, its purpose is really to show you how to structure assignments and to think of assignments in terms of how they are featured, what their features are, rather than an assignment is an assignment, because an assignment can be a quiz, right? If you upload a quiz document to assignments, or an assignment can be a mark as complete if it's just the, hey, I did the reading. So it's about learning the features. So I've updated that for you. Hopefully that's clearer. If you run into that again, feel free to reach out because that's good feedback. We've only had a couple of people actually go through it, so please feel free.
Okay.
Thanks. Anything else?
Thank you. Hopefully from there I can figure it out. Okay.
Awesome.